Hello you and hello you too. Today on YouTooSpain Live, you and I are going to be asking questions about how to avoid the problems and pitfalls of buying a house in Spain. Joining me shortly on the virtual settee by the virtual pool will be three lovely and very groovy estate agents from around the Costas, and they'll be able to answer all of your questions. So stick around and you'll get the answers you need. If you're watching the video back afterwards, you can ask questions in the comments below. First of all, though, gather round, give us a wave, hit the like button and have your questions ready, or just relax and enjoy the chat. Welcome to YouTooSpain. So let's start with our small but perfectly formed theme tune. Get ready to dance. Here we go. Groovy, baby. Right then, just before we begin, don't forget to make a note of our website, YouTooSpain.com, where you can find loads of resources, specialists and links that you need for your move to Spain and for living here. And there's a free newsletter at the beginning of every month, so sign up for that now. Doesn't cost you a penny to subscribe, nor does it cost you anything to subscribe to this channel on YouTube. Subscribing on YouTube just means that you're telling YouTube that this YouTooSpain is one of your favourites and you want to know when new videos are coming out. Easy peasy. Finally, if you use the affiliate links on the website and in the video description below, it helps YouTooSpain without costing you a cent. You can even get discounts on services too. It's a win-win-win with a cherry on top, as it says there. Lovely. So, without further ado, let's meet our lovely guests for today, one at a time. First is our old friend and one of our trusted partners on the website. It is, where's your picture, Matthew? Here we go. Matthew Wood from All Our Properties. Good morning,
Hola.
Matthew. Hola. We'll, in a moment, we'll get you to introduce yourself properly, but let's get everybody else on screen first. So, Darren Brown from Mikasmo. Oh, how do you pronounce it? Mikasmo.
Yeah, it's a fusion of Mikasa, my house, and Tiamo, I love. So there you go.
Fabulous.
Now, if you have to ask, I shouldn't have done it really, but
oh dear. So, third and final estate agent is Carsten Ryder from Vincent Real Estate, and here he is. Good morning, Carsten.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. We'll get you to explain your unusual name in a moment.
Have you got an hour?
So, those of you tuning in expected to see a property lawyer on the show, I'm sorry to say that Lucia, whom you've met before on a previous show, she's not very well today. So if you have any legal questions, our very experienced estate agents will give you the benefit of their extensive experience in these matters. Obviously, they're not lawyers, but they do have experience, and they'll tell you what they know. And I'll book Lucia for another show in the very near future when we can talk about the golden visa, and we'll add anything that needs to be added to this show at that point. So get well soon, Lucia. We miss you. And while we're waiting for everybody to appear on the live chat, there is a bit of a time delay on that. And as they're giving us a wave and saying hello, let's just take a minute each to tell us a little bit about you and what you do. So we'll start with Matthew.
Morning everyone, welcome. As it says, my name is Matthew Wood. I'm one of the partners of All Our Properties. We're a network of agents in the Granada province, mainly dealing with properties from Granada City down to the Costa Tropical and along the coast and into the Arras. Quick bit of background. I've been in property for about coming up 30 years. I think it's 29 and a bit. And I dealt with my first property in Spain back in 2002. So quite a bit of experience all round in the property market. So that's excellent. A quick overview of me.
Excellent. Thank you, Matt. And it's good to have you back. Next up is Darren. The stage is yours, Darren.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. So I wish I chose a different company name now, but I was thinking maybe I'll call them Matthews and go Adios Properties, but it's not quite the same ring. But anyway, we're down in southeast Spain in the Costa Calada region. I'm speaking to you now from a place called La Manga Club Resort, which is my home and where my office is. real estate has been my life for the last 23 years. A little bit of background, I moved to Spain in 99, 2000. I started working in real estate then. I worked for a big company for 8 years, and my travels took me to southern Italy, to Portugal, Cyprus, Bulgaria. I lived in the south of France, very close to Monaco, London, Marbella, all over Europe. And 5 years ago, myself and my beautiful wife Natalie and our kids decided, let's pick a place where all of those beautiful places come together and go and live there. And we returned to La Manga Club, where we'd lived in early 2000s. So we're an estate agent down here with property sales, management and rentals. We have a team in the office waiting to look after everyone. So nice to meet everybody.
Brilliant. Thanks very much. And it's good to see you've made the effort and you're wearing a jacket today.
Thank you.
Excellent. Apparently there's nothing on the bottom half, so I'm told.
No. People
We're
like
not...
breakfast. I've got the aircon turned full blast, but yeah, I thought I'd make an effort and wear a jacket.
Brilliant. Okay, over to you, Karsten, and take it away.
Hi, morning everybody. Thanks for joining. My name's Karsten Ryder. I work for Vincent Real Estates. We're based in Benihoffer, which is around 30 minutes drive south of Alicante Airport. We've also got an office a little bit further down the coast in Orihuela Costa. I've been here since 1998 and been involved in the sales of properties since then. Lots has obviously changed since 1998. I've worked on the whole of the east coast of Spain, right from Girona on the French-Spanish border through to Malaga. And what can I say? I should say maybe return to my roots in Alicante, as it were, has been pretty much in the middle of the country. Easy enough drive down to Malaga, easy enough drive up to Barcelona and Madrid, etc. The two offices that we run, as I say, one is inland a little bit, only about 12 minutes drive from the beach in a little village called Benihoffer. The other is on the coast at Orihuela Costa, a place called Playa Flamenca. And from there, we pretty much cover Alicante through down to where Darren actually works at La Manga, just about on the tip of there, as it were, and properties inland towards Elche, etc.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Karsten. Let's just say a quick hello to people who are on the live chat so far. Good morning, Bev. Good morning, Janet Stanton, Mr. F, Simon the saxophone, and Jason, Andy Cooper, and John the Joiner. That's a new name on the live chat. Welcome, John. And if you've asked any questions on social media, especially Facebook, I'll answer those. I think there was only one that came through on Facebook, unless I've missed some. We'll answer those halfway through the show. But for now, let's get straight on with some common questions about the pitfalls of buying. Start with you, Darren. People first start looking online with the big main portals like Idealista. What are the pitfalls of that kind of search, and what do you suggest is the best way to move the search forward?
Yeah, it's normal. It's human nature, and I think the stats say 90% of people looking for property start with their keyboard, and it makes sense. It's the world's biggest shop window, but the one thing you need to remember is anything is available. Go to eBay and type in Porsche 911, and you'll see highest bid €99, and you'll win at 100, and the next day you'll get delivered a Matchbox Porsche. So you just need to be careful what you're doing. But people come to property, and they type in that they want a 4-bed villa near the pool with sea views and a spa, Michelin star restaurant next door, and guess what? They get it. And look, I'm not suggesting people are stupid, of course not, but you need to manage your expectations when you're looking online. And Idealista as a portal does some due diligence on their agents, but there's literally tens, maybe hundreds of thousands of properties available on there. And how do you know what's genuine and what isn't? It's not a live feed. It's, you know, you're getting agents on there who put properties on 2 years ago, and the prices are still the same. An example of that is there's a resort near me called Santa Rosalia Resort, which 2 years ago had villas at €286,000. Fast forward to today, they're €435,000. So I'm battling every day, explaining to people, yeah, but they're not that price anymore. But guess who they want to work with? The agent who's got it at 235,000. Now, there are some, more sinister reasons to look out for. And recently, I think a client was duped on an Idealista. An agent had portrayed themselves as a big agent, but changed some details. Their phone number and email, of which were the main ones, and suggested to the client that they could buy a house for a certain price. The client paid a deposit to the agent. It's a big no, unless you've met the agent. And hey presto, they come over to Spain to see their beautiful house. It wasn't there. So just look, there's some of the pitfalls, but it's a good place to start. But I suggest that you quickly find a local agent and Google My Business, Google search for local agents like Carson and Matthew in their areas is a good resource, is a good place to start. So buyer beware on that. The other things to consider are that the local agents that you form a relationship with, like myself, Matthew and Carson, we live and work in the areas that we sell property. Our livelihoods here, our homes are here for some of us. Myself, I can't speak for Carson and Matthew. Our children go to school here. So we're a really good point of contact for local knowledge that Idealista can't give you. Idealista just give you, I'm not picking out Idealista, Rightmove, A Place in the Sun, and lots of others. They give you what you want to see. But get in touch with a local agent, speak to as many as you wish until you find that works for you. You'll often get free legal advice, you'll get currency exchange advice from the partners that they work with, all sorts of advice that will be helpful. And a step that I would take is, before you start with an agent, get on a Zoom call with them like this, see if the chemistry's right. Some of you watching this now will think, that guy's not for me, I couldn't work for him. That's fine. There'll be somebody who you can work with. The people who work with us over the years who have trusted us get a first-class service, but the chemistry's right. You've got to, people buy from people or trusted brands, but people hate being sold to. So if you feel like you're being sold to, move on. But the last thing I'd say is people love going shopping with friends. So if you can make that friendship and get the chemistry right between yourself and the agent, you trust what they're saying, they're going to do the research with you, then get on and do it. But, don't for me, just pick a house on an Idealista and think that's the one. So find a trusted agent. The value of us is far greater than many of the people give us credit for. We're here to help you.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Darren. We've got Simon Saxophones just asking, why do agents bother to advertise on Cairo Idealista if they have no intention of responding to generated inquiries? Actually, Ola are an exception. There you go. Well done, Matthew. We've had good service when calling in. So maybe, Matthew, you should answer that one.
Actually, I find it a bit of a surprise myself, to be honest. And I've also had similar experiences of, I guess it comes down to the way agency is often run in Spain. And again, I can only speak for this area in particular. But there are a lot of, due to the fact there's so few barriers to entry, there are a lot of people who dabble in estate agency rather than being proper professional agents. And so quite often people don't seem to respond. They will just wait for someone to come into the office. And actually, a lot of agents are advertising more to keep the seller happy than to actually generate good quality buyer leads for their clients. So in honesty, I don't know why people bother to advertise if they're not going to respond to the inquiries. Although I would say, as a slight defence, you'd be very surprised what percentage of inquiries we get that when we phone the phone number or email the email address back, that person never responds to us either, which is it's shocking. I think why would you take the time to input all your details and then not respond? And we have a policy where we will always try and phone first, follow it up with an email, a WhatsApp message if possible. And we have, after 3 attempts to contact someone, if they don't respond, we won't then continue to contact them because it seems clear that they don't want to speak to us. So it does work both ways, but I absolutely agree that I don't know why some agents bother to advertise if they're not going to deal with the clients correctly. But I think looking at, sometimes I see one-man band type agents who've got 150 properties they're dealing with. And it's just, in reality, it's impossible. One person often working from 10 till 2, 4 hours a day with 150 properties to deal with. It's literally impossible to provide any level of service with that many. So yeah, I don't know why people don't bother.
Yeah, absolutely. And now, Carsten, there's this question, the second one from Simon Saxophone, fits in nicely with the question I was going to ask you. Let's just pop that one on the screen. We've had good service when calling into offices, but Spain is a big country. We can't visit them all. Is it better to appoint one agent as a house searcher on our behalf? And when someone's looking for an agent to help them, what do you recommend they look out for?
Okay, thanks for the question there, Simon. Well, to be honest with you, it's obviously better to choose one agent to research the market for you, because they would have the live information direct from another selling agent, compared to when the client is searching on a portal such as have been mentioned, Idealista, Quiero, Rightmove, etc., which tend not to be live properties. So choosing an agent once you've chosen your actual geographic location where you want to be is the best move, because that agent will not only send you their own properties. Well, no, we don't. We basically send our own properties, and properties from other agents that have those that the requirements and needs of that client live on their own website. Before we actually send links to other agents' properties, we contact the other agent first to ensure the property is still available before we actually then send it to the client. So fair enough, properties can be sold very quickly. It's only the input of a PIN number on a debit card machine would give a deposit. That happens instantly. So it is as live information as we can possibly give to the client that's actually searching for the property, rather than them click the button, wait for 3 days, 4 days maybe to get a response back, because obviously place in the sun, then have to filter that inquiry through to the agent. That might not get through to the agent on a Saturday, and you'd be surprised how many agents don't work weekends. So they then don't reply until Monday. And it's a multiply, let's say, marketed property with 6 other agents, and one of the other 6 agents has sold it over the weekend. So, hey presto, all that research that Simon may have done is thrown to the wind. It's not relevant anymore. So basically, get right to the horse's mouth, choose one agent who will then research the market for you and send you the appropriate properties based on the needs and requirements and your budget that you've told that agent.
Brilliant. Thanks for that, Carsten. Which begs the question that I was going to ask Matthew. Do estate agents work together, and how's that work? Do you kind of share commissions, and how does that work, and is it good for you and the buyer?
Yeah, and in essence, we again, I can speak from ourselves and the knowledge. There's a few MLS or multi-listing systems around in different areas where agents will share properties and split commissions, etc. So you can act as a buying agent or a selling agent. That's not always the case in every area. There are quite a few agents that I know will not work with other agents, which doesn't seem to me in the best interest of their seller for a start. But definitely we do offer a home finder service to clients as well. In fact, Amy was out on 2 days out with a client looking at properties all over the area and helping clients with that this week. So in essence, yes, agents do work together. What you tend to find is the good agents who are genuinely working in the best interest of their clients will tend to work together. But there will be some who have their own interests and don't want to work with others. So there's a mixture of both. But it's normal. I personally find it's normally a good sign of the quality of an agent as to whether they work with other agents to the benefit of their clients.
Excellent. Yeah, that sounds good to me. Now, a little surprise for you all sitting watching. We have an invisible guest on the show. Well, more than one actually, because Tracy and Jack Wiggs, do you remember Jack Wiggs, my guest from a few weeks ago, and Clive and Michael, the head of Spain, great title, and all of my good friends at Smart Currency Exchange are watching today, and they've sent this message to my alter egos to pass on to you. So take it away, lots of me's.
You need to make a transaction between pounds and euros. I got dollars. I'm buying a property in Spain. I am selling one. I need to pay me regular bills, man. I want to send my pension to Spain. For all these things, look no further than Smart Currency Exchange. They've been helping Brits in Spain for nearly 20 years, like. They're based in the UK and authorised by the FCA, darling. They also have offices on the Costa del Sol and the Costa Blanca. Smart Currency have an excellent rating on Trustpilot, and they're available on the telephone. That gives real peace of mind when you're buying or selling something as expensive as a house. And exchange rates keep changing. To open your free, no obligation account with Smart Currency Exchange and start speaking to your dedicated account manager. Click on the link below, sweetie. Why, aye, man. Oi, oi. Whoever you are, it's a win-win-win with a cherry on top.
Thanks, lads. And today for this show only, you can actually use the QR code, which is just there on the screen on the top left hand corner. It'll be there throughout the show, and you can sign up for free for Smart. It's no obligation. It'll be there for the whole show. Right, back to the questions then. Carsten, first of all, does a buyer need a lawyer? There we go. Here's a good question. We were going to have Lucia talk about this, but do you need a lawyer? Will a conveyancer be just as good? And why pay more for the same result?
I don't mind being second choice, to be honest with you, Skatz. That's fine. We suggest that every buyer and indeed seller has a legal representative. Dependent on where the actual property is it rural, is it urban land, is it within a village, etc. That would all depend then on whether or not a conveyancer can do the job, or indeed an actual solicitor. Conveyancers in our region would generally charge a lot less than a solicitor. However, at the point of sale or during our, should we say, our chat with the prospective buyer regarding a property, we'll be very open with them and say, right, okay, this property was owned by Billy Smith. Billy Smith has now died, and let's say Joe Swash has bought the property. It has inherited the property on a will. However, the title deed isn't yet in his name. So that then creates a different legal framework to be sorted first before heading to an actual full sales contract. So I would then suggest that somebody would use an actual solicitor to oversee the inheritance the property is being inherited by the correct person, and that the title deed will then be in that person's name before the legal sign over of the property to the buying client. So in instances like that, yes, I would say use a solicitor. In other straightforward instances where it's already proven that the seller is the true seller, that their name is on the title deed, that the property is, should we say, in an urbanisation and isn't a country or rural property, then we normally say a conveyancer is just as good as a solicitor. You don't need a solicitor to do the same job, therefore.
Okay, thank you very much. Matthew, at what point do you think in the process should people engage the services of a property lawyer then? Yeah.
That's a really good question. I think Carsten's covered the majority of it. We tend to deal with very few urbanisations. They tend to be much more town and rural properties. For rural properties, I wouldn't recommend buying a rural property without some form of legal advice. Whether that's a lawyer, a conveyancer or certain legal advisors who can help with that. It's really important to have a good understanding of what's being checked. One of the things, particularly for country properties, that worries me is when a legal advisor doesn't actually visit the property. So they don't know what they're actually transacting, because on the notice simpler, the escritura, it could be describing a particular property or building. The catastral might show something similar, but another building's been built since that was written, and that could have been built illegally. Or there can be albercas, pools, all sorts of things that aren't described properly. So one thing I would, for the properties we deal with, or the majority, I would certainly say ensure whoever the legal advisor is, that they are inspecting the property themselves rather than just relying on looking at some paperwork. But yeah, I think for most people, I wouldn't suggest proceeding with the purchase of a property without taking some form of legal advice.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a good question from Mr. F there that's relevant to this. Legal properties from the guest point of view, what to look out for. For example, I was recently told that an only fully legal urbanisation must have pavements, streetlights, water, wastewater. That's in Valencia province. Who wants to answer that one? Karsten, take it away. You're first to have the finger up.
Well, Mr. F, you're absolutely correct. An urbanisation obviously is made up of a number of different properties that have at the end of it a certification that goes to the town hall. That certification then is then agreed by the town hall, and then the town hall basically offer their service, their street services, as it were, to the urbanisation. They don't just leave it on its own. That urbanisation can then set up their own community for the upkeep of their communal grounds, such as the lighting around the pool area, the green areas, the pavements inside the actual urbanisation itself. And then all the owners of that urbanisation have to pay per unit towards that urbanisation to ensure that the inside of it is dealt with and is as clean and tidy as everybody wants it to be. The outside, obviously, would be controlled by the town hall once that urbanisation has been given its legal certification. So basically, yes, that is a big yes, absolutely 100% true. Valencia province, by the way, Mr. F, covers Valencia, Alicante, and Castellón. Mm-hmm. Each one of which is an autonomous region, also within their own right, mm-hmm. which basically means they have some form of jurisdiction over how they wish to control themselves within the Valencia region. And those regions are obviously inevitably controlled by the main government in Madrid as well. So everybody has a say in Spain, and there's laws and bylaws in Spain just like there is in the UK or anywhere else in the world.
Mm-hmm. That's yeah, it's especially true of Spain, I can say that. Thank you, Mr. F, and thank you, Karsten, for that question and answer. Bev, we're going to answer your question a little bit later because that's the question that came up on Facebook as well, and I'll name check you then. So, Darren, how can... Oh, sorry, did you have something to say?
Sorry, no, I spoke over you then. I'll answer after Darren.
All right then. So, Darren, how can a buyer trust an agent when the agent is working for the seller?
Well, I think that there's a misconception that that the two have different agendas, because we don't. We have a common goal, which is to due diligence for both buyer and seller. Mm-hmm. Now, we're professionals in this and mediators, if you like. And we have a responsibility to the seller as much as we do the buyer. And our responsibility to the seller is to make sure that we're explaining to them that there's the market value for the property is correct. Some sellers, and it happens in every real estate market I've worked in, and the UK and the US and several others, is that people often win listings because the price of property high. Well, that's just false economy. So our job, first of all, as an agent, is to talk to the seller and say, look, your house is worth this is what will attract market value. But let's go back to the joining together of buyer and seller. We as an agent have a responsibility to explain to the buyer if there's any known defects in the property. So if you as a seller take me around your house and say, oh, by the way, the aircon's not working upstairs, I have to disclose that to the buyer. If I don't, then I can be held responsible for that. So there's no hoodwinking going on. It's not a case of, oh, let's get this and put a price in it and get some idiot to buy it. We're professional people. Our reputations, our professional lives, our reviews and everything, our families depend on us being professional. It's not every agent. And this goes back to my earlier point about finding somebody you trust and you feel that you can work with. Remember, we only get paid at completion. So we have to be diligent in the fact that we're the point of communication between buyer and seller and the lawyers. And the lawyers, again, are not enemies of ours, but there's a legal process in Spain. You know, you need sometimes your passport to go buy a sausage roll in Spain. I mean, okay, that's a bit of an exaggeration, but certainly a TV, you need your ID number. You know, it's a very diligent and legally abiding country, and it's alien to our British culture sometimes, how long it takes to get certain things done. But know that that's been done in your favour. Nothing is rushed. So communication is key. Buyer and seller need to know at the point of agreement what's being left. Is the ornament of an elephant being left? Yes, it is. Detail it. Because if it's not, people often forget these things, which causes confusion, and confusion causes distrust, and it's then a slippery slope. So use your agent to mediate between buyer and seller, lawyer and lawyer on either side. The one thing to watch out for as well is timelines and delays. You'll obviously get this legal process involved, and it's essential that we manage expectations on both sides. So I don't think there's any conflict of interest, but nothing ever goes smoothly. We're not robots, we're human beings, and it's an emotional purchase. So just manage your expectations in terms of the buyer side and the sellers, and you need a good lawyer. I agree with what Carson said about conveyancers sometimes can do the job, but if you're a foreign national buying in Spain, my gut feeling, my go-to would be to get a lawyer. Yes, you're going to pay a little bit more, but you're going to pay a little bit more, but at least you get that peace of mind and that security that everything's being translated. So I don't think if you get the right agent, I'm sorry to monologue and go on too much, and I'll end this now, but I don't think if you get the right agent, there's any conflict between buyer and seller.
Good. Well said. So, Matthew, I was going to ask you a question anyway, but tell us what you were going to say.
I was actually just going to add on about the question from Mr. F that Carson answered about the legal properties, because particularly for country, rural and small rural towns, this is a question that comes up quite often, and it confuses a lot of people who are coming from countries other than Spain, because is a property legal is a question that we get asked a lot, but the simple answer could be yes, it is legal, but it is legal as an agricultural building, as a nave or as a stable. Doesn't necessarily mean it's legal to live in as a house full time. And that can cause a lot of confusion for people, because they would ask the question, is the property legal? And some agents might answer yes, and they'd be absolutely correct in answering yes, it is legal, but just not for the purposes that the buyer wants. So I think that's something to have a bit of an understanding of if you're looking for properties in Spain, is that legal doesn't always mean it's legal for the purposes you require it for. Again, not for urbanisations and things, they're a bit more straightforward, but definitely for any sort of town or rural properties, you need to be very careful about what it is legal as.
Very good point. Yeah. So actually, let's move on to the buying process. This is something that's going to interest obviously everybody that's buying, including the legal checks. Take us through that process, and then we'll ask you other two guys about how the process differs in your own different regions. So take it away, Matthew.
Well, I think fundamentally one of the issues for buyers in particular, but also for sellers in Spain, is that there is no standard protocol for transacting a property, for conveying a property. If you took most countries across UK, Northern Europe, US, Canada, etc., then there's a standard protocol for how to convey those properties, and there's even some standard forms. So in the UK, for example, the TR10 would give an example of the type of thing that is standardized across the industry. In Spain, there are really no set criteria other than you have to turn up at the notary and sign for it, or someone on your behalf. Mm-hmm. So the process will be different in different places, and that can be from making the reservation, whether the property comes off the market, how long it comes off the market for, when deposits are paid, when the conveyancer is done, which is kind of like exchanging contracts in other countries. So fundamentally, the problem is that there is no standard protocol across Spain, and also the rules and regulations vary in different autonomous regions, and even down to individual municipalities will apply rules and regulations differently to how the government, the regional or national government might do it. So there isn't really one single answer to how that works, but I can explain how we work and how our partner agents work. Mm-hmm. And that's usually when you see a property that you want to purchase and agree the details of a purchase on. Usually a €3,000 reservation fee is made with a contrato de Arras, which agrees for the seller to take the property off the market and not to sell it to anyone else, and for you to purchase the property at the agreed price and terms, and allows a period of time for your legal advisor to conduct the necessary legal checks and ensure that things are correct before the 10% deposit, which is usually made with the compraventa, is placed. Now, within that, there can be lots of other things that can be added and changed according to each individual property. It may be there's work required, it may be subject to a survey, it could be 100 different things that might be included. But that's kind of the basic process. It's normal to place a reservation deposit down immediately and secure the property so that it can't be sold to anyone else while the legal checks are being done. Here in Andalusia, there is a standard set of documents that every agent is legally required to have available, including the notice in play, the energy certificate, and some other documents relating to properties. So one of the first things, which kind of I'm tying in the question earlier about agents you can trust, etc., simply ask the agent if they have those documents available. If they haven't, the chances are they haven't actually done any legal checks on that property before marketing it, and so will actually have no idea what they're actually selling, so they can't really give you any proper advice on it either. Again, that might vary in other areas, but certainly that's the rules here in Andalusia. So hopefully not too long-winded an answer, because there's a lot to cover within that.
Yeah, absolutely. As you say, it can be different in different regions as well.
Yeah.
Sorry, people, for the occasional picture problems from Matthews, and we don't have a stronger signal coming through from him, so he's a little bit pixelated, but he's a lot better looking in real life. There we go.
Very kind, Skatz. Yeah, great face for radio.
Fantastic. Yeah, I'll get the same thing. Well, until I got my teeth done, then I just people look at them now. So I'm just having a look at the questions before I move on to your two different regions there, Darren and Karsten. There was a big conversation going on about Campasol in Mazaron. John McClue saying it's one of the best urbanisations in Spain, and hello, by the way, to Expat in Mazaron viewers. That's Sean's YouTube channel. We share some fans on there, so good to see you on the channel there. Jason, though, saying Campasol looks too remote for me, and just urbanisations, not enough infrastructure. Bev agrees. But Jason says, well, that's one of the reasons why it's cheaper. And this is true. It's horses for courses, isn't it? When you're buying there, a lot of people like the fact that there's especially a Brit community, and you can go to all of the bars and meet all of your friends, and it's a lot of people feel safe there. So let's move on to you, Karsten, to begin with. What's different in the sort of
Alicante region and the region you're there? Any pitfalls particular to your region?
No, very similar to probably Matthew, what Matthew has said, and also Darren. We would obviously view the property with the clients. Hopefully they make an offer. If that offer is accepted, then they do the reservation contract with in our area, €2,500 deposit at the agreed price, with a tentative completion date also put onto that contract, i.e. an on or before date. And that is all dependent upon the circumstances of both the buyer and the seller, and both of those parties actually agreeing with each other that they can go for an end of September completion, or end of October, or mid-August. Whatever has been agreed would generally go on that contract. Then within 14 days, the buyer's legal representative should have done due diligence and the necessary searches, reported that back to the buyer, to then basically the buyer then would have to pay their next stage payment, and dependent on the purchase price after the 14 days would be another €2,500 or €5,000. Then the rest is paid on completion, which is the date then that has been agreed on the full contract. One thing I don't think we've actually covered, or maybe I missed it. Once the full contract is issued, that then nullifies and voids the reservation contract that was initially signed. Because the reservation contract is normally signed by the agent, i.e. ourselves, and the buyer. Because we as an agent already have written permission from the seller to sell their property, then we can act as their intermediary until both of the solicitors, one for the buyer, one for the seller, then agree the finite date on that contract. Once that's agreed and that document signed by both parties, I'll repeat, that reservation contract is then nullified. You've gone through the full sales contract as a result of the buyer's side doing the searches necessary to ensure that, well, basically, Ron Seal is exactly what it says on the tin. I don't think we covered taxes in our area at this stage. In the Alicante province, we've got 10% property tax on top of the price of the property. Then your legals can be anything between €3,000 and €4,000, dependent on what level that you wish your solicitor to actually go to for you, i.e. you might want all of you named on a title deed, so then all of you will need paperwork. You might all then need power of attorney. So it's all dependent on what you want as a needs for yourselves as a buyer.
Excellent. And Darren, anything to add to that?
No, I was wondering, were you asking the question, are there any differences in terms of the buying process or regions?
The regions, yeah. The buying process in each region.
I apologise, Carsten, if you saw me on my phone, I had to reply to a message, so apologies to everybody. I wasn't being rude, but it was urgent. Well, in terms of the differences in legal processes in the regions, or the regions themselves, Skatz?
Well, the buying process, I suppose, which includes legal process.
Matthew and Carsten have summarised that. You know, it'll differ between developer and reseller and lawyer. So the general summary is bang on. There's no point to go on any more about that.
Great stuff. Andy Cooper has a question. This is more of a TIE residency question. At what stage can you use the house that you're buying as a permanent address for your TIE appointment? Is it once you put the deposit down, or do you have to have signed the final paperwork? Does anyone know the answer to that one? Carsten, go for it. You're always the quickest.
I should have been on the chase or something like that. Right, in a nutshell, a deposit does not mean that you own that property. So owning the property can only be done at the notary at the completion stage when you've actually paid for the property. Pretty much the only official paperwork you can actually apply for in between deposit and the completion is your NIE. The TIE comes when you actually physically own the property. You can set things in motion, and things will then get held in limbo until you actually do own the property. Because at that stage, when you put the deposit down, you're neither here nor there. You've established an intent to purchase a property in Spain, but there's no guarantee that purchase will continue. I'm not being skeptical about things. What if there are some legal problems with the property that your legal representative uncovers, etc., etc.? Or, for instance, if the seller decides to back out from the sale to you, obviously that backing out is covered by a separate law anyway. But to actually try and get the TIE beforehand is impossible. You don't own a property here in Spain. You put a deposit down and expressed an intention. It's like changing over the what do you call it in the UK? I've been gone so many years. The logbook on a car in the UK. You give Jim €500 deposit. You can't change the logbook until you paid for the car and you physically own it. So it's the same for TIEs. You can apply for the SIE.
Excuse me.
The full number you need in order to continue with the purchase process, but the TIE can only be done from the very day that you actually buy the property.
Yeah, excellent. And that's the same for signing on the Padron as well. You need the deeds. There you go. So, right, we're beyond the halfway point of the show, I think, or maybe around about that point. So before we move on, let's have a quick message from me and my three alter egos once again. They're itching to give you another message about the wonderful things available to you at YouTooSpain. So here goes, and take it away, lads.
Are you getting something helpful from this show? Are you enjoying YouTooSpain? Then click on the thumbs up and subscribe to YouTooSpain while you're here. And click on the bell for notifications. It's all free, but it's worth loads of money. I need coffee to keep my picker up. You can donate coffee to us all. There's a link in the video description below, or use the QR code. It'll be in the top left-hand corner of the screen after this message, sweetie. But that's not all. You can support YouTooSpain with a regular monthly amount. It's only a few quid. Oh, he's worth a lot more than that. There's a link below to Patreon, where you can find out what extra groovy things you get by helping out. Oh, I'm all a quiver. One more thing. Get on with it. There's an important guest twiddling their thumbs. All right, calm down. The lovely video watcher needs this. Go on then. There are lots of other links to vital things below. Like what? Well, do you need private healthcare insurance? Yes. Do you need a visa or residency? Do you need to exchange currency? What about finding a property? Or getting tax and pensions advice? Or getting a Spanish mortgage? Or getting documents translated and apostilled? Or getting a medical certificate? Or finding a lovely little app for learning Spanish? Do you need the best mobile phone provider? Or a digital business card so you never need paper ones again? Or do you just want one of YouTooSpain's t-shirts with a slogan on it? You can even get discounts on dental treatments and get a lovely little smile like Skatz. All of those links are there, down below. If you can't find them, ask me in the comments. Is that everything, darling? I need to get my nails done. Probably not, but let's get back to the show, shall we? Back to Skatz in the studio. I wanted to say that. Oh, stop being beastly, you two. YouTooSpain. Over to you, Skatz.
Brilliant. Thank you, Skatz, Walter, Tommy and Dick for joining us. If you have any questions for any of them, you can ask in the comments and I will reply, maybe with a short video just for you. Oh, by the way, as I said earlier, the QR code in the top left-hand corner of this video isn't for buying me a coffee today. It's for contacting Smart Currency Exchange, which I also recommend. So if you want to buy me a coffee, the link is below, and the Patreon one is there too. So let's bring everybody back on screen now. There we go. We had a question from Bev earlier, which is also the same question that we had from from Facebook, from Mike Ripper. Let's just put it on the screen so you can all see it. Surveys. Any number of estate agents, he says, in Spain look at you as if you're totally off your rocker just for asking about surveys. I've had the same reaction in the north, Cantabria, and in the south. Is it really true that the Spanish don't bother with surveys? And if so, what do all the surveys do? Or what do all the surveyors do? There we go. So who's the first one to put the hand up for this one?
I'm happy to answer that one.
Fire away then.
Interestingly, surveys sort of vary across different parts of the country, different parts of the world, and this usually comes up from buyers from the UK. In the majority of cases, buyers from the US also will often ask about a home inspection. So, answering it from the point of view of the UK, where you have RICS surveyors who have a standard types of survey they do. There are some RICS type surveyors in Spain, but they are not widespread. It tends to be that a local architect will do an inspection on the property if you wish to have one done, and that's certainly something that I would not recommend not having done. But in actual fact, the majority of Spanish buyers that we deal with don't bother with surveys at all. It's quite rare. I'd say less than 10% of the properties that we transact, people will have a survey done on. It's usually only specific things that they want a local architect or a local builder to look at, as opposed to the type of survey you would get in the UK. For us in our area in particular, we tend to deal with a lot of cash buyers and not many mortgage buyers. So they're not doing that like they would in the UK for the bank. And when the inspector for the bank, if there is a mortgage with a Spanish bank, comes round, it tends to be that they are more looking at the value of the property than the structural integrity of the property. So in short, surveys are actually quite rare in Spain from my experience in this area. That might be different in other areas. And it's interesting how Spain's such a big country, particularly compared to the UK, that things vary quite considerably in different areas. But certainly around here, surveys are quite rare.
How about you two on the coast, Darren? What's it like?
Yeah, I think the one thing to be aware of as well is when you're on an urbanisation, often it's a community that bears responsibility for the properties, the structural foundation of the properties, and you have insurance against that. If it's an individual property, a villa or a finca, I would highly recommend getting a survey done, at least a buyer's report done, because it can earth some nasties that you just haven't seen. So, but I agree with Matthew. It's not common practice, but I think in your due diligence, if you've got any concerns, then you certainly should do it. And for the sake of a few €100, then why not? But certainly on community properties. So what I mean by that is an apartment block or community of houses, then the structural insurance for that urbanisation is generally down to the community that's administrated by a lawyer, and there'll be regular checks done. Anybody want to expand on that or disagree on that? Karsten, do you agree?
Absolutely. I concur, Darren. Same in our region. I would say, to be honest with you, less than 5% would go for a survey. We do get asked the question, but not very often. What we do say to people, though, is when the property is handed over, as in on completion, an architect has to actually visit the property anyway to issue the habitation and energy certificates, so that the new buyer knows that the property is habitable and what energy consumption is actually in the property. Maybe we're fortunate here, I don't know. We have a number of different architects that we use that will not only just give the, obviously if it's relevant, give the habitation and energy certificates to the property. They will do a report as well, based on things that they might see that they think are potentially wrong with the property. If that's the case, and there is something wrong with the property, like cracks in the walls, the front garden wall seems to be skew with, something like that, then that goes under a different negotiation then with the seller to say, well, look, this fine, it's habitable. However, there are problems with the property. So we open up a new door of negotiation then normally with the seller that most of the time actually ends up with the buyer getting a reduced purchase price.
Mm-hmm.
So generally, no surveys are done, but an architect does visit the property to issue those two certificates that I've mentioned.
Excellent.
I'll just add something, Skatz, that
Yep.
like the UK, properties here have a 10-year building warranty guarantee on them. So if you're buying something that's 3, 4, 5 years old, then you can be fairly confident. Anything sort of 7, 8, 9 years old, then you may want to get a survey done. So I just wanted to put it out there that there is a 10-year building guarantee here, like there is in the UK. And I think on new build properties, you get 2 years on the heating and electrics and that sort of thing, but the actual structure is 10 years.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Thank you for that. And I was going to ask you, actually, Darren, it's the dynamic that you have between agents and lawyers. I think is really interesting. It's a shame we don't have Lucia on the show to give her story on that, because I've got in my notes, potentially you're working for opposing parties. You've already kind of covered that in saying that you're both working to the same ends. But so are there any difficulties and pitfalls that you face in dealing with lawyers, and that it would be handy for the buyer to know in advance?
A lawyer's job, and they're duty bound by the bar that they represent, that they have to do their job, and the frustration sometimes comes with communication. And I'm in my own office, I'm an advocate of communication is, as human animals, we do over the phone or face to face, and an email is used to send information and information only. And unfortunately, when you start working with lawyers who like to communicate by email, we pick their email up at 3 o'clock on a Tuesday and reply at 2 o'clock on a Friday, and it's not answered until 4 o'clock on a Thursday next week, and that's frustrating. But use your agent. That's what they're there for. They're there to help you. But there shouldn't be any conflict of interest between a good agent and a good lawyer. They're both like-minded, and that's to protect the buyer's interest and the seller's interest.
Great. Karsten, you had your finger up there.
Yes. In my 25 years experience here, I would suggest a buyer instructs a legal representative that works in the area of the property that they're purchasing.
Mm-hmm.
Because as we've mentioned during the show about the varying different legalities and bylaws of each autonomous region of Spain, and each town hall area has also got their own bylaws that a solicitor from outside of the area is not aware of, that they will then maybe struggle to achieve contact with the person at the town hall where the property is governed by, to give them an answer on, let's say, a porch, a terrace that has been glazed in. Is it a permanent structure? Is it not a permanent structure? Is it desmontable? Sorry, what's that English word? Can it be deconstructed to make it a non-permanent structure? Now, sometimes these are questions that a solicitor out of the area will bring up to their buyer. Before we know it, the buyer wants to back out because their solicitor has told them, oh, in Sevilla, this is illegal. But sorry, we're not buying in Sevilla. It's not illegal here because of the bylaws that are there but for the actual town hall and the region. So please use a solicitor that works in the area of purchase. And I'm not suggesting, wherever you're from, not to use a solicitor from your own country. Problem there lies in the fact maybe that the solicitor from your own country will have to subcontract that work to a Spanish local solicitor, whereby you'd actually end up paying double for the same service. Contract a Spanish solicitor who speaks your language. Wherever you're from, get one that actually speaks your language. We have many in the area that have multilingual. For instance, we've got one up the road that is not only English and Spanish speaking, they've got French, Italian, Dutch and Flemish. we've got a solicitor that can recommend people to that have got English, Spanish, and Polish. Pretty much each solicitor, we can say, right, okay, if you want somebody in your language, we can recommend these people. But if you want to Google who speaks your language, then you just press the buttons on your keyboard and choose your own solicitor.
Yeah. And as Matthew said earlier, it's important the solicitor visits the property as well. So
yes,
to do any checks. So they've got to be local.
Interesting to add to that is something that I see regularly on Facebook groups and the like is this advice of never use the lawyer that the agent recommends. I have to say, I think that is one of the worst pieces of advice that could ever be given. Never use the lawyer that a bad agent recommends, was what it should say, because I'm constantly dealing with issues where, as Carsten has said, someone's found a lawyer online who's based in Malaga and they're buying an off-grid property in the Alpujarra, and that lawyer has no clue whatsoever about the local rules and regulations. It'll be an off-grid property with solar and acequia water, and they'll be asking for electricity bills, and they don't understand how acequias work. This is a genuine story I've said, and I have the email in case anyone ever questions me on it. I actually have an email from a lawyer in Malaga who's dealing with a property purchase here of an off-grid property, and I actually said, do you understand how off-grid properties and acequias work, or would you like my help with it? And their response was, no, I don't understand it at all, can you help me? That was from, so please don't take this common Facebook myth of don't use the lawyer that the agent recommends. We're not recommending lawyers because we're in league with them and we're getting some giant backhander and they're going to squeeze you into buying a property that's illegal. We're genuinely trying to help you. I know for Darren and Carsten as well, I live in this area with my family, with my friends. Someone buying here is going to be my neighbour. I'm going to be at the cafe or at the bar with you having a coffee. I'm not here to try and rip you off so that I've got to hide my face when walking down the street. It's just not the way it works.
It's like a built-in after-sales service, isn't it? I was talking to Carsten about that the other day.
Yeah, as an example, it's a slight sidetrack, but we offer a postal service for people who are off grid in the office, and we've got other services that we offer to help people with open bank accounts, deal with the town hall, particularly people who don't speak Spanish. It's not just you buy a house and then that's it, off you go. We're here to help you for the life of your time here. It's not a single transaction. It's a relationship over many years, not just a single transaction. But I see that come up a lot about don't use a lawyer that the agent recommends. And I absolutely understand why that's the case. And some people have been caught out. Please listen. We are here to help.
Brilliant. Got a nice message from the middle journey. Do you have a solicitor that speaks Yorkshire? I'll be for you, Carsten.
I'm a Mancunian.
Oh, sorry. The ultimate insult. Sorry, it's the War of the Roses all over again.
We've not necessarily got or recommend a solicitor that speaks Yorkshire. However, Jose Mena works for a company just up the road from us. He loves nothing more than going back to the UK, particularly Yorkshire, and drinking Indian Pale Ale and bitter. You don't often get a Spaniard wanting to do that. No. He's fully versed in English culture. I mean, what you find here is maybe 20 odd years ago, the standard village person in Spain had never actually gone outside of the village, never mind outside of the country. The culture now in Spain for the people that actually work is they've travelled throughout Europe and they understand dialects, lingos, etc., etc. Most of the time, I did actually speak to a buyer the other day who said, now, would the solicitor understand me if I said, oh, you can't swing cat round in that kitchen? Yeah. And I said, no, not really. You'd have to be a little bit more specific than that, or elongate your words, for instance. Yeah, it's a good question, but they certainly do understand you. Don't worry.
Brilliant. You'll just clear up some of the questions on the live chat. Just some comments from Janet saying it's the buying process seems to be quite quick. She bought 10 years ago, and yeah, the buying process does tend to be a bit shorter than in the UK. I know that. Maybe somebody can answer that later on, but just need to clear up the one from Simon Saxophone that came in quite a while ago. I hope you're still with us, Simon. And Darren wants to answer that one, which is, which point do you need your NIE? Do you need it before you make the reservation deposit?
Well, simple answer to that is no, you don't. And just reservations, just a little bit of time on that. It's not the British culture to go and see a house, make an offer, have the price agreed and put money down on it. I know this, having bought and sold properties in the UK and being an estate agent there. In Spain, it's commonplace, and the reason for that is, whatever the reason is, that the reservation deposit that you make secures a property at the price that you agreed until such time that your lawyer allows you to go ahead and make the purchase. So the deposit shouldn't ever be paid to somebody online. It can be paid to an agent in very, very specific circumstances if you know and trust them. But generally speaking, I would say don't do it. Pay it to your lawyer. They'll hold the money in escrow until such time they're happy, and they'll hand it over at completion. But the question on NIEs, this is where your lawyer comes in. And one of the things that you can take advantage of is to give your lawyer power of attorney to get your NIE number, which is basically a number for a foreigner in Spain who wants to buy property and other goods and stay here. So you can give power of attorney to your lawyer in Spain, and it takes out a lot of the sweat work of getting your NIE, queuing up at the police station and various other stuff, language difficulties. They will obtain it for you. It can take anywhere between a few days and a few weeks, a few months, depending on the demand. And you do not need it, in fact, to actually complete on your property, but you'll have to have it within sort of 30 days. And anybody wants to disagree on that, that's what happens here in this region anyway. So no, you can go ahead and make a reservation on a property. If you see something you like, you've agreed the price, you're happy with the agent, you're happy with the property, don't dither, get your money down. The market is strong right now. This is not a pitch. I'm just telling you where we are. Then get your lawyer involved to help you get the NIE numbers, which you'll need to complete on the property, or certainly within a few weeks of doing so. That answers the question.
That's good. Yeah, the market is strong at the moment. And if you're buying from the UK, the exchange rate is really, really nice at the moment. So,
well, a good time to bring in smart currency there, Skatz, because people could speak to them. And
absolutely, yes. Click on the thing; it's over there.
It's surprising how little people realise that you can literally save tens of thousands of pounds using a currency exchange company. The bank people say, "Oh no, I'll use my bank. I've been with them for years," and they're ripping you off in a lot of cases. Well, in every case, banks are ripping you off, but currency exchange companies can make the difference between 5, 10, 15,000 pounds depending on your purchase price.
Mm-hmm. Did you have something to say there, Matthew?
Yeah, so it's interesting what you were saying there about the NIE, because that's clearly different in different locations. You're absolutely right, you don't need an NIE to make a reservation, but you will need an NIE here to complete the transaction with the notary. They won't do it without. So again, that's clearly something that varies in different areas.
It's about 30 days, Matthew, and that you can actually, in specific circumstances, complete, providing your application's in and you can prove that it's in, but it's not always necessary to have that NIE number at completion, but certainly within 30 days or so.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You can't actually complete the transaction without the NIE. So if you didn't get your NIE, you'd have a big problem.
Yeah, you can sign at the notary, but you can't actually complete. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Anything different in your region, Karsten?
No, just the same as Darren's. To be honest with you, that's how we operate here. You can complete if you've not got your NIE, as long as it's proven that you have the appointment to receive the relevant paperwork within 30 days of the actual completion at the notary.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Now, we still have quite a few questions to get through, and I don't want to have too late a show. I know, Darren, you've got to go off and play golf and other things. People have got to get lunch in a bit. And so let's answer Merle Helen Philp's question that came in a little while ago. How do you know the difference between a good and a bad one? I think we were talking about lawyers here, when you're not familiar with the technicality of it all. Who wants to take that one?
Is that good? Are we talking about lawyers or agents on that question? I'm not.
Well, that's a good question. What were we talking about at that point?
About
Lawyers.
lawyers.
Let's assume it was lawyers. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy to start with that. Due diligence, do your research. You know, if we go back to the agents that you see online, have a look at the social media, look at the Google reviews. If somebody's got a Facebook with one follower, you know, start questioning that. And word of mouth, you know, referrals. Can I speak to some of your clients? I'd like a testimonial. And do what you do. In most cases, social proofing is becoming more and more of a thing in everybody's business. But a recommendation, to go back to Matthew's point, if you're speaking to me about a lawyer recommendation, I can absolutely guarantee a very good lawyer to you. So if you form a good relationship with your agent, trust them, but then, you know, furthermore, do a bit more due diligence. But knowing the difference between a good one and a bad one, that could be whether, if they're a lawyer, and they're bound by their services to protect you, and so is a notary at the end. But the service you get from them can be very different. But I'll hit it back to Matthew and say, trust your agent.
Mm-hmm.
Can I add to that, please?
Go on then.
Okay, obviously on the due diligence side of things, have a look at the email address that you've been given by your legal representative. Generally speaking, a Gmail account is a private account, and that's got different security, should we say, buffers on it that stop emails getting through. Gmail accounts, as I say, are generally private accounts. So this might be one single individual that's not actually even got an office that you can visit. Also look out to make sure they have got an office on their social media, or indeed a website address. Try and choose a solicitor through doing exactly what has been outlined here. Look into them. You've got the internet highway here, far different to, let's say, the likes of myself had in 1998, where you had to trust the guy that you're meeting at the bar that was actually working out of his car with all his legal paperwork and didn't even have an office. You will find them, and your instinct will show you how to find them. But to reiterate the point, if you trust your agent, you should also trust the recommendation that they're giving you for a solicitor, because it will be a local one. And if things are not going in your favour, we can, should we say, walk through to the office of that solicitor and give them a good kick up the backside if we don't think they're doing their job good enough for you.
Mm-hmm. Great answer. So let's move very quickly through these last set of questions. Fees and costs. I've heard in some areas that with some agencies they're charging up to 5% to buyers on top of the seller's commission that they're saying is normal. Is this legal practice? Is it a pitfall? Is it a conflict of interest? Matthew, what should we be looking out for there?
Again, this comes down to the fact that actually in many countries around the world, in most mature property markets, actually charging a buyer's fee as well as charging a seller's fee is illegal, because it clearly creates a massive conflict of interest. However, in Spain, it's not illegal. It's a practice that seems to be dying out, and most, in fact, all the reputable agents that I work with in our network don't charge additional buyer's fees, but it is a practice that still takes place. So that can be confusing for some people as to why they're paying an agent and the seller's paying an agent. And in terms of general costs overall, again, they vary from autonomous region to autonomous region. Carsten mentioned earlier the purchase tax there is 10%. Here is generally 7%. although in certain smaller villages it can be reduced again, and for certain age ranges it can be reduced. So the actual purchase costs can vary quite considerably, and it really does work based on local area. So as an example, for our area, 10% on top of the purchase cost is going to cover you for your purchase taxes, notary, and various other bits and pieces. But that could easily be 15% in some other areas.
Yeah, what's the percentages for you, Darren, in your area?
Well, first of all, commissions vary throughout Spain, as they do throughout the world. And I had an estate agency in the UK where commissions were anywhere between 1% and 2%. In America, it was 6%. In Australia, it's 6%. In France, it's 3 to 5%. So the UK, and you get purple bricks on the job, and it's 700 quid. So, but you pay for what you get. So commissions vary. But know this: there's nothing going on top of the price. You know, my job as an agent is to value a property. The market value, I say, is 250 grand, and the seller agrees to pay me a commission for my services to sell that house. And you know, for a lot of us guys working in Spain, bringing over clients from the UK and Northern Europe, there's a huge cost per sale. In the UK, just to outline this a little bit, I don't want to get too deep into it, but in the UK, getting the property is the difficult part. That's the whole thing. Once you got the property, you put it on Zoop or Rightmove, you get a flood of buyers. In Spain, it's the other way around. Getting the buyer is a difficult part. And there's lots of properties available, but there's some good ones and plenty of bad ones. So our cost per sale is literally thousands of euros. So don't begrudge your agent what they're being paid. We're doing a job for you. We're keeping you safe. We're looking after your interests. We're finding the right location for you. We're doing our due diligence on what you want. So there's value to using a good agent, or just go into it blindfolded with the 100 properties that you printed off the internet that match what you typed into Google, and good luck. And I don't mean that to be disparaging, but there's a value to what we do, and commissions differ. But certainly Matthew's right. Ask your agent asking you to pay a buyer commission is very unorthodox, and I wouldn't get involved in it.
So, Carsten, anything different to that in your region? And also tell us about property tax and new build taxes, if you can take that all in a bundle.
Mix that in. Yeah, sure. Okay, I don't really need to expand on what Darren said. In the Alicante region, as a rule of thumb, we don't charge a buyer a commission. However, there are agents in this region that do. And because as the guys have said, because it's not illegal in Spain to do it, once you've actually agreed to do it on the small print of the paperwork that you might have signed with that agent, you've got no comeback. But as I say, I would say that 95% of agents do not charge a buyer's fee. The seller is charged the commission. Okay, property tax here is 10% of the agreed purchase price of the property. And if it is a new build off-plan property that hasn't yet been owned by anybody else apart from the developer, you add a further 1.5% on top in this area.
Great.
Here in Mercia, it's slightly different. So a resale property is called property transfer tax, is 8%. And then if you buy a new build property, it's actually VAT, IVA, and it's 10%. And it could change down in Matthew's region, so they're different.
Great. And Darren, I think it was Matthew earlier on that was talking about the reservation agreement, but there's something called the Arras contract. Tell us the difference between the Arras contract and the reservation agreement. Where does the down payment fit into this, and can that be refunded?
Yeah, well, Matthew covered that quite well. I don't want to go over all ground, but just very, very simply, a reservation agreement is what I alluded to earlier. If you see a property that you want to buy, you want to put down a reservation deposit, that will, generally speaking, take the property off the market at the agreed price until you've done your due diligence legally to buy it. But at some point in time will come the next stage, which is the Arras or the PPC, the private purchase contract, where you enter into a legally binding contract, which the Arras is, and you agree to pay a certain deposit and have the legal checks done until you complete. Now, once you get into the 1 year on the reservation contract, it's generally refundable. With some developers, it's not. But if you were to pay your reservation deposit to a lawyer, which I'd highly recommend, it is, because the lawyer's holding your money. When you get to the private purchase contract, if it starts raining tomorrow and you change your mind, unfortunately, or the Arras contract, you're not getting your money back. Equally speaking, if the seller pulls out, they'll have to pay you double what you've paid, which protects you against gazumping here in Spain, which you don't get in England. I know you do in Scotland. So I don't want to muddle the point and get confused. I've gone off on a tangent here, but I think that answers the question.
Great stuff. Any differences for you, Matthew? Oh, we're talking about property tax, in different autonomous regions. Any differences for you there?
On property tax, as I said here, the standard purchase tax is 7%, but that can be reduced for lower population villages, and there are some other exceptions to that as well. Also, when it goes over a certain amount, then the tax increases slightly. So it's kind of, again, speak to your agent. That's what we're there for, is to help guide you through all of the costs for what you are looking for specifically, because it does vary quite considerably from region to region, and as I said, even down to each town can be different again and have exceptions. So just speak to your agent. They'll help you go through everything.
Yeah. Carsten, anything to add to that?
No. All covered.
Brilliant. That's been the standard answer for you there. It's good to see that there are some things that in each region that are the same. Sorry, I'm just getting my spare headphones out because these are running out of charge now. So, which means that we're getting towards what we should do the end of the show. But tell us, Carsten, to start with, what's changed in the many years that you've been doing the job? I mean, we've all heard the reputation that the estate agency has. I think is based on what happened in the 90s and all of the problems and ownership battles and everything, the old stories that are still in people's minds. But is there any of that left? What's changed, and what's your best advice to avoid the pitfalls?
I think I touched on the fact that I've been here since 1998, and we didn't have the internet highway. We didn't have such a thing as a website to research, to ask any questions, to look for properties. Now everything is extremely transparent, and you can pretty much find anything out about anything that you want to know about with respect to buying a property, legal framework, technicalities, etc., etc. So that has definitely changed, and for that reason, the clients have changed because they're far more, should we say, versed now than they were, albeit because of the different autonomous regions of Spain and the differing laws, bylaws, etc., etc. They forget that they might have researched something in Sevilla, but then they're looking in Alicante, where the rules are completely different. So you tend to be, as an agent, working on the back foot straight away to try and ensure that your clients trusts you and not what they've actually then read on the internet. So you're on, should we say, negative ground to start with, until the client then goes back to their hotel room or accommodation, then actually looks up what you've said about your region and found it to be true. Once that has occurred, that's a day wasted in their viewing trip, should we say, because they have trusted something that they've read on the internet that may or may not necessarily be true. Be fully aware that if you have got a chosen geographic area, you make sure that you look for things in that area, not Spain as a whole, because with 19 different regions of Spain having all different laws and regulations, it can be a minefield. Yeah,
so it's a good idea to travel around, find the right region first, maybe before you start, and also due diligence is one of the big points that we're all pointing to.
Absolutely, yes.
Brilliant. John the Joiner is asking, just to make it clear, that I understand correctly, that as a buyer I shouldn't have to pay the selling agent.
I'll answer that.
Carry on.
Well, I'll offer one answer. Look, Depending on the circumstances, and I wouldn't say categorically no. I'd say it's unorthodox, but not absolutely no. Sometimes you might pay an agent a finder's fee. If you've been working with an agent for many hours and you've sent pictures of properties through and it's done the research and been to the property and found something you want to buy, and the agent who holds the agency rights on that doesn't want to work with you, in my belief, that agent's done some work and it's in your judgment whether he deserves to be paid or not. But generally speaking, you shouldn't have a buyer and seller commission. It's unorthodox, but I wouldn't say you should devalue any agent's effort into finding you a property that the actual person who's selling the property doesn't want to pay the agent for his efforts. Mm-hmm. So a slightly muddy answer, but I wouldn't say absolutely not. Depends on your value of the agent.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think I agree there. It really depends. If you're paying a buying agent to act on your behalf as a buyer, that's different to paying a selling agent who's acting on behalf of the seller. So there are some definitely there are some. They're not grey areas. They're actually quite clear when you dive into them. But that would be another hour's show on that. So in essence. I think just be very careful and make sure that if you're signing anything before viewing a property, you know exactly what you're signing, because it could be a commitment to pay a fee that you're not aware of.
Excellent.
I'll add to. Can I just add to that,
yes.
Matthew? It might also, as one agent does here locally, it might also be a commitment for you to be tied in to the legal services of that agent as well, which then could be. Should we say a conflict of interests? The agent having an in-house legal team, and you maybe sign a document. There's definitely one agent that's quite large here that makes you do that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Good point. So let's round up, and one by one, if you've got anything else to say and to add and to say to everybody watching, let's do that. So we'll start with Matthew. Go for it.
No, I think it's been quite clear here that there are significant differences in different autonomous regions and in different municipalities. The key to it all is get a good agent. It's not too difficult to work out what's a good agent and what's not. One of the first things I would say, just from my point of view, is look to see that they are actually registered with a professional body. There's a few that have good codes of conduct to subscribe to. And my other piece of advice for anyone looking to choose a good agent is actually look at that agent's social media content. Look at that agent's website. Are they giving out free, good quality advice about buying in their area before they've even spoken to you? If an agent's telling you all the pitfalls to look out for before they've even spoken to you, they're probably coming from the right place. If it's a one-page website that doesn't really tell you much about the pitfalls to look out for, then if they're not giving that information out at the beginning, I wonder when they were going to give that out. So that's just my piece of advice.
Very good. And by the way, if you've got any more live chat questions, send them in now while everybody's talking, and we can get to them just at the very end. So while we're waiting for that, Darren, anything to say?
Yeah, thanks for inviting me along, and hope it's been informative. In terms of finding the right agent, it's a tough one, but you will get them. Matthew and Karsten, like myself, are trusted people. We're here, as I say, I'll repeat myself a little bit. We live in the area that we work in. Our families are here, our livelihoods are here. So there's no better proof of trust than that, really. The other one I'd say, a little plug here, if you don't mind, Skatz, is that myself and my wife are a new family on a Channel 4 programme called Sun, Sea and Selling Houses that we filmed Series 6 currently showing on TV and Series 7 next year. So if you want to see more of the region that we work in and see properties and get in touch with myself, you can look at the brand Sun, Sea and Selling Houses and get through to us. So sorry about the plug, but it's my opportunity and I'm taking it.
No problem at all. And by the way, to anybody else, if you've got any questions after you go off air, after we go off air rather, and you can't get them on the live chat, then put them in the YouTube comments below, not on some random Facebook expat group. where you clicked on this link to get to here, because then I'll be the only one who'll read that, because it'll go into a little stream of comments. So yeah, put it on here so that everybody else can benefit from the answers and get the help you need. It's a win-win-win with the cherry on top, as I always say. And Karsten, over to you for the last word.
Okay, thank you. Thanks very much for inviting me.
Welcome.
I'll just compound what both Darren and Matthew have said about the regional differences of the law in Spain. I think what I've found during this presentation has been, at the end of the day, our code of ethics can always be questioned. And I'm certain, after listening to both Darren and Matthew, and obviously yourself, that yes, you can question our code of ethics because they're quite similar. They're high. We don't mess around with people's lives. It's their money. They've worked for many, many years to achieve their dream in Spain, and it's not up to us to even attempt to ruin that for them. We want to be invited to your first ever barbecue. We want to bump into you at the bar or the supermarket and not hide our faces and walk away. We're in this because we love to do it, and our experience basically is as a result of what we didn't get when we first came over to Spain was a company like us, or an agent like Darren, or an agent like Matthew. Honest, trustworthy, and basically straight to the point. Some people don't like the facts sometimes. However, we like to point out the positives and the negatives of what is going on in Spain about your property, where some questions might need to be asked that you've not thought of asking. So basically, yeah, thank you very much. Darren, enjoy your golf. Everybody else, enjoy the rest of the weekend. And as what we used to say, TTFN.
Brilliant.
Jimmy Young, I think.
Last,
I'm showing my age now.
brilliant. Last few little messages on the live chat then. Expat 333. We're looking for a rental from September to June 24. Any top tips for securing a rental? Well, it's a good time to secure a rental from September onwards, once all of the holiday properties of all of the holiday landlords have stopped renting by the day and by the week, when they start renting for the long season, the off season rather. So but ask that question on our Facebook group or the Facebook page, the YouTooSpain there, and you'll be able to get some other advice. And finally, the middle journey says, when will we be able to buy property with cryptocurrency? I think you can do it already, can't you? But it might disappear before you actually get the payment through. No, that's the only problem with that. I wouldn't trust it as far as I could spit. So, very, very soon, I'll tell you who's on next Saturday's show. But before that, let's say a huge thank you and give a big virtual hug and a kiss to all of my groovy guests for being amazing and helpful. Matthew Wood, Darren Brown, Karsten Ryder, and hello to Lucia, who's ill. Get well soon. You're all welcome back anytime. So let's everybody wave them out one at a time, because I can only click one button at a time. So bye, Matthew. Take care.
Right, thanks everyone for watching.
Bye, Matthew.
And bye, Darren. Thank you. And finally, Karsten. Bye-bye for now.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. You're welcome back on anytime soon, by the way, the guests. So, on next Saturday's show, I will be talking to Chris from Upsticks. Yes, he's back. He's had a few weeks off. I'll be announcing the topic of the show during the week, but you're welcome to ask any questions about visas and residency and registering cars in advance on YouTooSpain's Facebook community or the Facebook page. The link, of course, is below to at least one of those. If you can't find them, then just send me a message on the comments below. And yes, thank you so much for joining me on the live chat, everybody. There's been some new names on there, and yes, thank you for joining us. I can't name everybody because that is excellent. Thank you for your questions. They have been excellent. And make sure you click on the like button if you haven't already. Don't click on it twice because it just removes the original like. And hit the subscribe and then click on the little bell and set it to all. So then you will find out every time there is a new video from YouTooSpain. I'll see you on the latest helpful video on Wednesday. They come out at 5 o'clock on Wednesday, Spanish time. And then I'll see you live next Saturday morning at our regular time of 9 o'clock if you're in the UK or Ireland, or 10 o'clock if you're in Spain or Central Europe. That's all for this week. Somebody pass around the Pitfall cookies. That's what I'm calling them this week. And peace and love to all of you. Be groovy to each other. And here's one final message for all of us here at YouTooSpain. Bye-bye for now.
Bye, lads. Bye. Goodbye. Toodaloo. Peace and love. Peace and fluff. Oi, oi. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. One more cosmic dance? All right, then. Look, Mum, I'm dancing. Oh, I'm all a quiver. Let's dance.